The next part was the exhibit that was submitted. Exhibit 1, this was a printout of S3076, an act to release a federal reversionary interest in Chester County, Tennessee, to manage certain federal land in Bath County, Virginia, and for other purposes. I understood at the time that this was not only literal, but also a derivative act of legislation that was serving the purpose of offering up the mineral rights, literally, as well as the intangible and potentially tangible property of citizens of the United States in an either abstracted or a direct and concrete manner after being illegally expropriated and after processes by which our personal private property was going to be or had been dispossessed from us. This was after several years of watching as members of Congress and the Senate aided and abetted a conspiracy to defraud the people of the United States of America of their personal private property by allowing for fraudulent designations of emergency assistance in order to offer bribes and kickbacks in consideration of severe malfeasance that had occurred in connection with municipal and state financing portfolios. In addition to the malfeasance and fraud connected to these municipal and state financing portfolios, were efforts to actively undermine various federal departments, including by refusal to address acts of fraud and to visit retaliation against whistleblowers. There were various activities that had occurred in the Congress that correlated with local activities that I witnessed in both Chicago, Illinois, and Houston, Texas. By the first time I attempted to submit a petition to the Supreme Court of the United States, and had also witnessed in Austin as well as Dallas, Texas, by the time I attempted to submit a second petition to the Supreme Court of the United States. Both of those petitions were denied. One of those petitions was denied on a day that exactly 1 year later saw to it that the President of the United States wrote a several-page letter to the Speaker of the House of Representatives excoriating her policy, but also listing what I understood to be his understanding of policy matters that had been sabotaged in the course of being subjected to an impeachment process that I contend was absolutely part of the means by which Congress intended to intentionally defraud the people of the United States of America of our personal private property in order to cover up for crimes. These are not civil matters. They should have been addressed through a criminal process. I should have been offered some assistance with offering information, reports, and evidence to the appropriate prosecutorial authorities, which could potentially have included local district attorneys or states attorneys generals in 3 states, but was intentionally denied and obstructed. And when I attempted to contact the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., after first trying to contact them in Chicago, Illinois, and then trying to contact them again in Houston, Texas, I was also obstructed and denied any redress. I attempted several times to follow up on my calls to the Department of Justice in 2018 by calling what I was told was the Department of Concern, which was the Organized Crime and Gangs Unit of the Department of Justice, was not permitted to speak with anybody directly in the department, and was not offered a name of who it was that I was allegedly speaking to under the auspices of the Department of Justice. I was at first referred to a correspondence unit. I was told that to the community issues department. They said that they had considered it, and then they had referred it back to the Organized Crime and Gangs Unit for consideration. And when I called a month later to follow up, they said it had been referred again to the correspondence unit. At that time, I had need to contact the Department of Justice again, as I understood that I had been put into a situation where an attempt to file with the Supreme Court of Texas had been used in acts of securities fraud that potentially jeopardized the livelihood of people in other countries that were working in publications that were located in high conflict zones and were covering issues connected to the Ebola outbreak that had been announced in North Central Africa. At that time, I contacted the Department of Justice under the Antitrust Division for one matter, as well as the Criminal Division for another matter. Again, I received absolutely no response to these efforts or to efforts to file through the legal filing process in the Texas Supreme Court.